part that Emory won't say.
Yes.
Tell me about that, Emory.
Growing up in the crucible of South Florida, there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of activity taking place. And so I had cousins who serving life sentences. Many of them were street pharmacists, hustlers, and the like. In life, you're either running from something or running to something. Most people don't know is that in the second grade, my second grade teacher had determined that I was not reading at grade level. In fact, she said that I was calling words, but not comprehending words. Part of me has been running from that second grade little boy who was at the bottom of the class. At the age of 12, my parents got divorced. Major struggles, but that was not obvious from the outside looking in. And I can remember how that, tore our family apart, tore me apart. I remember the pain, the tears. I think I've spent the majority of my life making sure that I was no longer ever gonna be at the bottom. I was saying I never want my kids to have to cry the tears that I had to cry.
And it's something about your left eye that turns on. It's like you can see trouble happening while the sun is still shining. Almost like there's a hook in your eye. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Conversations. I hope you're beginning to catch and beginning to see. And if this is one of your first episodes, the whole point of Legacy Conversation is to help you establish your legacy on purpose. Whether that's done is by looking at people's stories, people's victories, people's defeats, and even some of the pitfalls that they may have fallen into. And so today, I'm excited to have yet another face and another voice. I'm going to ask you to be open. He's my brother. Okay, he's my brother. I want to just say one thing about him being my brother. Though I don't hang out with him, I don't kick it with him, though all those kinds of things, I've known him through the years, and it's been nothing but stellar opportunities to connect and stellar commendation from others. And we are brothers. We're brothers. We are brothers through the blood of Jesus Christ. Help me welcome, maybe drop in the chat some hand claps, some prayer hands, Emory Berry, pastor of the Favored Church. What's up, man?
Good to see you. Glad to be here. Humble to sit on this couch, on this chair.
Don't start all that. Don't start all that. But I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely.
Your brilliance was put on display again on yesterday. We're in the middle of our residency, the colloquium, and I don't know, man, it wasn't so much your presentation and what you were talking about. My favorite part were the questions and how you were fielding them.
Sure.
As time was running out, you say, let me give you these two quick things. Let me just say this one thing.
Yes.
And I admire that. I admire thinkers. I admire people that adjust. How much do you think of you? But let me preface it by another question.
Sure, absolutely.
Your definition of legacy.
Excellent. So I would say legacy is that which you pass on to the next generation.
I think that people know more about legacy than they are aware of. Because
Absolutely.
that is the overwhelming majority of people that say exactly that.
Sure.
Have you ever seen, do you remember seeing McFarlane and me asking him the question?
I do.
Is that where your answer came from?
Well, I tell you what, it was a stream of consciousness.
It was a stream of consciousness. Man, you can't be caught. You cannot be caught, all the right answers. So what will be your legacy?
So I would first and foremost probably say my children. Mm-hmm. My hope is that they will glean some of the positive lessons, attributes, characteristics from dad and mom. And I have literally prayed many days, God, do not pass on to them all of my flaws, all of my shortcomings. And so my prayer is that they'll take the best of myself and my wife and take it to an entirely new level.
How do you see them taking that to the next level?
Excellent. So I think one is around character. That's one that's very important, a very high value for us. Is to treat everybody with dignity. I'll tell you a funny story or interesting story. I was invited to be the guest speaker at one of the local universities. And the president afterwards, we were having a meal after the service. And he says, do you know how you got the invitation to come here? And I'm assuming one of the deans, one of the professors, someone had recommended me, even a student. He says, no, he said, my secretary had a conversation with you one day, and she was so impressed how you treated her as if she was the president of the university. And based on her and being impacted by you, he says, I had to invite you. And so I said that to say is that I'm a big proponent of treating everybody with dignity. So I would say their character, hard work, came from two hardworking parents who did not skirt around hard work at home. And then I want to see them follow their passions.
Did not skirt around hard work at home. In
Absolutely.
other words, you held them accountable, or that you wanted them to see it on display. What do you mean when you say?
Absolutely. Well, I would say that. So my mother, for example, she worked 42 years at the same job. And as we know, we live in a day and time, to quote, if I may remix or baptize in the blood of Jesus. But Chris Brown had a song. He said, folks ain't loyal.
I was just kind of catching up with that.
So companies not loyal like they used to be. Churches not loyal like they used to be. But just seeing her work hard, get up. She had to be at work 6 o'clock in the morning. So 4:30 a.m. she was up. So I grew up watching that. It was normal. I didn't know that there was anything different. And similarly, my father, high premium around work ethic. And my grandparents, none of my grandparents finished high school, but they went on to do amazing things. And so seeing them work hard was something that they passed on to my parents, and then they passed on to us. And then I pray has been infused in my children as well. So yes, in our house, we mop floors, we sweep, we do yard work. So yeah. So in addition to working hard on a career or job, we also make sure that at home, that reinforcement.
I think that the practice starts in the dark when it comes down to establishing your legacy.
Sure.
And I always say that, I remember I wrote to Dad one time that your ceiling is my floor.
Wow.
And very and most fortunate to have had the opportunity to stand on his ceiling.
Yes.
And I hear some of the same kinds of things, that there's an expectation that you have of your kids. Who is Emory Berry?
So Emory Berry is in my mind, not when I look in the mirror, but in my mind, just a little boy from Miami-Dade County, 305, don't stop, get it. Just a humble kid who had potential that I didn't know I had some great people who saw more in me than I saw myself. They pushed me, pulled it out of me. And so I would start there, just a kid from inner city who was able to do some great things. So I would start there. Now, if you want, I can give you my full bio, resume, and CV.
No, but that's... I don't like for folk to read that. I just kind of got this thought, like
Sure.
I don't know. Let me just see what comes on here. Tell me, what kind of kid were you? Were you getting trouble, or were you in a gang, or?
Right. So great question. So growing up in South Florida, I grew up around a lot of my cousins. And so we spent a lot of time together. So for the most part, I was the kid who did what was asked, of them. However, I did have a short temper, and I have two brothers, one who's about 3 years younger than me, another one about 8.5 years. And so I felt like I was their protector. So anybody said anything crazy, they were going to catch these 1-2s. And so I didn't mind standing up and fighting for family. But for the most part was the person who did what was asked. But I had my fun, please be clear. And especially when I went to college. And you all may have to edit some of that out the episode, but I often joke with my wife. I tell her, if I wasn't a preacher, I don't know what I'd be. She said, boy, please don't remind me. So, yeah.
Some is clicking on with me.
Sure.
About you. I don't know, maybe this is too soon. I don't know if this is even the place for it.
Go for it.
But I see that you see.
Yes.
And it's something about your left eye that turns on when there's a It's almost like you can see trouble happening while the sun is still shining.
Sure.
What are you about to say?
No, absolutely. So again, growing up in the crucible of South Florida, there's a lot of motion, as the young people say. There's a lot of activity taking place. And so I had cousins who, serving life sentences. Many of them were street pharmacists, hustlers and the like. Saw uncles, even saw, my father navigate a lot of challenges. And I'll never forget the words my grandfather, he would say, you don't have to live life making mistakes. So now I made my share of mistakes, but I was watching others and say, you know what, I don't want to go down that path. So that was kind of the thing that is, I like my freedom and I want to stay free. So there's some trouble I just avoid at all costs.
Yeah, I get it. But what I'm seeing is, that's a good answer.
Right.
But what I'm seeing, almost like there's a hook in your eye.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe it'll come back to me, but it's your left eye.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I won't do that. I will not force anything from happening. So tell me about the white space.
Sure.
You remember, all right, so your bio.
Yes, sir.
A lot of words and so forth. Not too many words. I hate when people read my bio.
Right.
I kind of go, it's like, yeah, I don't know who that sounds like. Your bio, very succinct. Only what seems to be needed is in there to give an appropriate picture without too many details. And as we were chatting before, you said it's the white space that you don't want anybody. How'd you put it?
Yeah, the part that I purposely edit and redact out the story.
What's in that? Some of the things that are in that white space.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say, let me mention the black space and I'll get to the white space. Mm-hmm. So when people read what's in black, they see, graduate from University of Florida, Emory University, did my doctorate at Virginia Union. And then they see certifications. They see schools like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Howard, Wake Forest, Baylor.
Oh, you flexing now.
Yeah. So,
you flexing
yeah,
now.
So they see all those things in my resume. Yeah. What most people don't know is that in the second grade, my second grade teacher had determined that I was not reading at grade level. In fact, she said that I was calling words, but not comprehending words. And so if you told me that word was legacy, I would memorize it, but not necessarily phonetically process it. And so I could read a story out loud to you. But then if you were to ask me, what'd you read? As a second grader, I could not tell you what I just read. And so anyways, she sat down with my mother and says, listen, I'm going to have to put him in a reading group all by himself. And I'll never forget the sainted memory of Miss Lily Courtney. She's in the advanced years of her career as an educator. She could have easily said, I've educated thousands of kids. And so I'm in the lowest reading group in the second grade. She worked with me. And this is the beauty and blessing of her story. She also attended our church. So she was also over our youth Bible study. So she was my teacher during the day. And then I would see her on Wednesdays. Make a long story short, Ms. Courtney was determined that I was not going to be labeled. I was not going to be in special or remedial classes, but she took me as a personal project or investment. And by the time the second grade is over, I'm still in a reading group by myself, but instead of being in the lowest reading group, I'm now in the highest reading group. And so I often say that if Ms. Courtney does not make an investment in an 8-year-old curly head, struggling little boy, all that black that you see on my CV and resume does not happen. Being an author of 7 books does not happen. Owning my own book publishing company does not happen, so on and so forth, if she does not take an investment in the one kid who's struggling the most in her class. And so that's some of that white space that people don't get to see.
Nope. I am not going to stop there.
Right. Go
That'd
for it.
It'd be so nice if you want Good Morning America.
Right.
So the whole point about legacy conversations is the grit.
Yes.
It's me and Dad and how I was hurt.
Yes.
How I hurt him.
Yes.
How he excommunicated me. I felt that way.
Sure.
How for however many years there was this rift between us.
Yes.
He even talked about his drug addiction.
Right.
That's white space to me.
Yes.
And Miss Courtney isn't the white space I'm looking for.
Go for it. I can go there.
Miss Courtney, along with your other brothers and cousins and so forth. What has Emory dressed up?
Sure.
Nice suit. I've noticed your watch.
Yes. Goodwill, the back rack.
I see your pen.
Yes, sir.
What's the part that Emory won't say?
Sure. Right.
Don't tell me about a fight.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about how you saw somebody pass, a package off.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about just your fun.
Right.
Your wife says, don't remind me. There's something gritty
absolutely
about you that I want you to think that if somebody were to hear this,
yes,
they see the refined Emory.
Sure.
The successful Emory.
Sure.
But if someone were to see a hurdle,
yes,
a ditch,
yes,
even a piece of what you wouldn't want anybody else to see.
Sure. Yes.
Tell me about that, Emory.
No, absolutely. There's a quote I saw once that said, in life, you're either running from something or running to something. So I would say, just to begin, as I mentioned, second grade, I think I've spent the majority of my life making sure that I was no longer ever going to be at the bottom. And so some may say, man, you're very accomplished. But part of me has been running from that second grade little boy who was at the bottom of the class. I'll never forget at the age of 12, my parents got divorced. It was a difficult season. My dad was a very accomplished guy. Obviously, I'm named after him, had some major struggles, but that was not obvious from the outside looking in. And I can remember how that man tore our family apart, tore me apart. And I remember the pain, the tears behind, hey, I'm going to come pick you up this weekend. And, you don't get picked up. Hey, I'm going to do this, the broken promises. So when people see, for example, the compliments, hey, you're a phenomenal father. But part of that is birthed out of the pain of saying, I never want my kids to have to cry the tears that I had to cry. I think also people to ask, well, hey, what was your call to ministry? I was sick. I had a cyst on my brain. I had a cyst on my brain on my pineal gland. The doctors tell me, listen, we got to do surgery. We're going to eliminate, you're going to lose your speech and a part of your memory. And it was at that point, at 19 years old, that I'm facing one of the biggest crises of my life. I'm feeling invincible at that time, 19, six pack, on top of the world. Thought I had it going on. And I'm looking at mortality right before my eyes. And so that was a season of my life, where I began to start thinking differently about purpose. And then I would even say transitions, as what brought me back to Atlanta was I had an opportunity to come and after pastoring in Richmond, Virginia, at a historic church, a lot of wins, but also a lot of crazy things that go on behind the scenes, which most people don't realize that church can be a very interesting place. I got called to a church here in the local Atlanta area, and a lot of wins in front of the scenes. But man, I was facing a major battle behind the scenes with a lot of the leaders of the church. And so I had to pivot in the middle of the pandemic. The relationship got very toxic, got crazy. And I had to make a decision to stay or to leave. And I said, you know what? I'm going with God. You all have it, and I'm moving on. And I remember after that season, having to, one of my good friends who had gone through something similar, he says, listen, one of the first things that you need to do is make sure you go see a counselor or a therapist. So for about 1.5 years or 2 years, I would see a counselor, therapist to kind of walk through. Here it is, you've worked hard all of your life and seen to get to a particular point, and then just to see everything kind of crumble right before your eyes. And so that's some of that white space, some of those mile markers along the way that really describe the grit that you just talked about that helps to make me who I am today.
You just connected one thing that I saw earlier.
Sure.
Remember I was talking about what's the pineal gland?
So that is what produces melatonin. So the thing that causes people to go to sleep, that cyst, that tumor was pressing on that gland, and was producing melatonin. So I could literally be in the middle of a conversation like we are now and fall asleep. And so that's what it does. That's the function.
You know the spiritual implications of the pineal gland?
I know. Talk to me.
So whenever they study third eye.
Yes, sir.
Can you associate the two?
All right. Help me out. Keep going.
All right. So no problem.
Yeah.
So it is said that when you see it clearly in the text, if you look enough, that when Adam and Eve ate, they then knew that they were naked.
Oh, wow.
And so the pineal gland can be associated with both the wicked and the righteous. So in cultic times, or anyone who functions in a cult, they open up their pineal gland, pineal gland, however people would say it. And that's where the tree of knowledge information comes through.
Is that right? Okay.
Because they are looking into a place that God always says, don't even go over there. As believers, we can see, and we see through our pineal gland.
Yes, sir.
It's a hard word to say.
Tomato.
Yes,
sir.
yes. Because that's the spiritual gate, portal, if you would.
Right.
And some people have learned how to master that and open and close on purpose. And other people have certain encounters, experiences that is because of that gland.
Sure.
All right. So now when I told you that you connected some things for me. Have you ever been a seer? Have you ever seen stuff that?
Occasionally, yeah.
Give me an example.
So I have a lot of dreams. In fact, and I assumed it was normal until I got married, and my wife would ask me, well, how'd you sleep? And I said, well, let me tell you about these 3 dreams. And then I was like, but you go first. Tell me what dream. She said, I don't dream. And so I can see things in my dream that sometimes unfold. Not all of them, but from time to time do unfold.
How regular are your dreams?
Oh, man. Probably if there's 7 days in a week, probably 5 nights out of the week. Yeah.
Have you ever met anyone that dreams like you do? With regularity.
With
clarity.
You know what? I probably don't talk about it outside of my home, but I would love to talk to someone who does. Yeah.
There's so much communication. There's a text in the book of Job that says that God inserts messages in an envelope wrapped as a dream.
Wow.
Joseph would interpret dreams.
Yes.
And his interpretation is what got him an invitation from Pharaoh.
Yes.
Dreams they are from God. They're for God.
Yeah.
But they're also for us.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of dream interpretation stuff that's out there, just even for you, not only for you, but for the audience. John Paul Jackson was a prophet, and his thing were dreams. So let me give you an example. Whenever you see a bit of transportation, when you're dreaming, it has everything to do with your ministry. So if you're seeing a 747, it's something about a large, oversized, but working dream that is coming up as a feature that you need to understand, because God is telling you whether he's growing you to something big, whether he's growing your spirit to something big.
Sure.
Is it your ministry or your, whatever that might be?
Right.
Whereas someone riding in a car with 4 people in it, that this could be transportation for a family to move from one place to the other. Some dreams are in black and white.
Sure.
A lot of the dreams that are in black and white are spiritual warfare dreams. Some dreams are in color. You have to pay attention to the perspective that is in your dream. Are you looking onto yourself? Are you high and looking down on a conversation? But all of these kinds of things have everything. You don't know where I'm going, do you?
No, listen, I'm following you. I'm with you step for step. Keep going.
All these things that I'm talking about are connected and tied to the pineal gland. And yours hasn't been opened on purpose with spiritual intentionality. Remember I said earlier, I see something in your left eye.
Sure.
And I said, it's like a hook. I think that had everything to do with your surgery, with the cyst.
But it's the beauty. I never end up having to have the surgery or I'm a walking miracle.
So?
Yes, sir.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make me back up off
No,
what
go
I saw.
for it. Yeah.
So any kind of adjustment or pressure to certain places in our body, it hurts. Our kidneys hurt when we don't have enough water.
Yeah.
It was an element that was missing that was causing the pain. I think that cyst was a part of the miracle. Because as it pressed and laid up against the pineal gland,
yes,
that it was God was using that to open something to make Emory who he is.
Sure.
For Emory to be able to see what he sees.
Sure.
This one's for you.
Okay.
How does what I'm saying resonate with you?
So you know what? At all these years, I've never really taken a deep dive to recognize the spiritual implications of the pineal gland outside of just knowing just kind of functionally and how it functions, but not necessarily the spiritual implications. So you giving me my homework, after this conversation, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And somebody's listening today and watching, where you just opened up a lot of our eyes. So I appreciate you, my brother. That was, and you would have thought that somebody by now would have been able to, but it was meant for me to hear that. I appreciate that greatly.
God maps the organs in our bodies.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say this. And may I tell you, when I first started learning this stuff, it really kind of was, I was nervous because I'd never heard it.
Sure.
I'd never heard anyone talk about dreams and the interpretation of dreams and, how your body is mapped to certain, I never heard those kinds of things. And I believe that a lot of that I couldn't have learned if I stayed at Salem. There are a lot of reasons why I know that God had to bring me out.
Sure.
And when you get desperate for something, when something isn't working, you don't have a book on your theological library shelf, then you're like, what in the world is going on?
Right.
And a lot of this stuff I would not have learned from the exposure I've had from various mentors. Sure. Or even life, but the entire body has something to do with a spiritual connection and a spiritual overlay. And I don't want to go too deep, but I am still very interested in what you're not saying about what I said.
Sure.
So let me show you. This isn't just me following a rabbit trail.
Go ahead.
This is me talking about legacy.
Yes.
That God gives us exactly what we need to get to where we're going, even though we can't see that we can see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, say it one more time.
Yeah.
For all the viewers and listeners.
I appreciate it. I saw that half of your face go blank. God gives us everything that we need to be able to see where he's showing us we're going to go.
Okay, sure.
So it's almost like the tribe of Issachar.
Yes.
They were the seers.
Seers, yes.
And it'd be very interesting to see how their pineal gland, how it worked.
Yes. Go ahead, throw your question out there. I can see it all over your face.
This is going to be a different kind of episode.
Okay.
I believe if you and the audience were to embrace what I'm saying, do your homework, your research.
Sure.
You have to be willing to step outside, though, Roy Zook's commentary, biblical commentary. It probably won't be there.
Right.
Every time, Emory, whenever I end up with a problem,
yes,
or I needed some answer on something, God ended up bringing me the right teaching.
Yeah.
The right CD or tape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your son might not even know what a tape is. The right person.
Right.
If you get hungry, and I'm talking to the audience, if you get hungry for something and you start wanting to know what God says or does, or why are you here? He says you'll always be able to eat. He's the bread of life. And to that same thing,
sure,
you can feel like there's a lid over you in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
The flavor of this episode is going so much more differently than I thought.
Sure.
But I'm really enjoying what I see, what I feel that God is doing. And I feel what God is doing is a timeless thing.
Yes.
That it'll be one of those things that will continue to live.
It's interesting as you were saying that, I think back, as you and I were talking about, when I had to pivot, during the pandemic, I never forget something that my mother and others said, listen, you'll never fully be who God called you to be if you stay here. And that was the furthest thing from my mind. But they said, listen, there's so much more. In fact, I'll never forget, there was a lady who we had hired. She's gone on to be with the Lord. We had hired her to be our accountant. And on her first day on the job, I remember going over to her office and she asked me, said, well, how long are you going to stay here? I said, till about 3:30. And she said, no. How long are you going to stay? I said, well, give or take about 3:30. My kids would get out of school about 3. We're probably, about 3:30. She says, no, how long are you going to stay here? And I'll never forget, her lips started trembling. And she says, listen, I know you don't know me and you're just getting to know me, but this is not God's last stop for you. And I remember leaving there thinking to myself, hey, I've worked hard, gotten to this point. And but there was a lid, as you mentioned. And I'll never forget 3 years later when she got ready to do her exit interview. And we were going through kind of what you accomplished, what's something we need to work on. I said, do you have any questions? She said, yes. She said, I have the same question for you on my last day that I had on my first day. How long are you going to stay here? And I'll tell you, it was so profound. But even she saw that, listen, there was going to be a lid and limitations if you stay where you are. And I will tell you, I have found and discovered since that point that they were all right, that there's some things that I'm doing now that I never, ever, ever would have done had I stayed under that lid. So,
could you see what you're doing now?
So I'm gonna tell you yes, and like,
are you BSing me?
No, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay,
yeah. So so I knew that God would use my story, the good, the bad, the ugly, to help somebody else. And that's been a big part of my own life and ministry. I'm like, hey, don't just tell the good parts. One of my friends calls Facebook fake book. She says, hey, everybody posts the winning touchdown, the winning 3-point shot. Everybody posts, the home run, but nobody posts the fumbles, the interceptions, or the strikeouts. And I believe that all of that gives you texture. So I say all that to say is that I will say that, yes, I've seen myself in places and spaces that I would have never imagined. But like most people, you don't see it happening as fast as you would have thought, hoped, or anticipated. And so, but little by little, I'm seeing, like days like today sitting in front of you, for legacy conversations. It's saying, hey, remember when I gave you that dream, that vision? This is what it looks like. So I just appreciate you, my brother. This is exciting. And I learned something new today. So I'm going to bed smarter than I woke up.
God is working on you right now.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be that professional, well put together Emory, that winsome, charismatic, articulate, and you putting on for the city.
Putting on for the city.
Yeah,
Little Jeezy.
You know, look right.
You won't find that in your hymn books, by the way.
Right. And what I mean when I say that, you got these cameras that are here.
Sure.
Let me put that one in my pocket.
Okay.
Because I don't know that I want to open that part up. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
When you talk, do you talk with your arms, not just your hands, but like as you're making a point, do you extend your arm?
I would say yes. If I go back and watch a video, I'm probably not conscious of what I do, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yep. From the pulpit, did you have windows in the sanctuary at Green Forest?
We did stained glass windows, yeah.
Okay. Do you favor the right side or the left side of the pulpit? I would say left.
Yeah, because I'm holding the mic in my right hand.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm probably more open to my left. Mm-hmm.
Here might be something else. And, again, this kind of stuff, people could think that is witchcraft, that is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my podcast.
Sure.
But God is a God who has a feminine side and a masculine side.
Sure.
We see it show up in his creation.
Yeah.
You got women, you got men.
Yes.
The left side of our body is the feminine side.
Mm-hmm.
The right side of our body is the masculine side.
Sure.
We have come to embrace right brain, left brain.
Mm-hmm.
With the left side being the more creative side, the more sensitive side.
Sure.
The left side stores the feeling around things. The right side stores the facts around things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tender side of you that comes from preaching,
Mm-hmm.
that the emphasis is made with the left side. And so I see you standing there emphasizing something with your left hand.
And my right hand is normally occupied because I'm holding the microphone.
You came out of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
There was the darkness had a grip on you.
Sure.
And you got to say nothing to this one.
Okay.
Because I don't put nobody on Front Street unless they need to be.
Yes, sir.
But in the boardroom, if you had meetings,
Sure.
Judas was to the left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Judas smiled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw it and didn't realize what you were seeing.
Sure.
Tell me about your transition from Green Forest into the Favored Church.
Absolutely.
So the accountant trembles and asks you the question at the end.
Mm-hmm.
How long are you going to be here? How'd you know something was brewing?
Great question. So I would say so there was always something brewing. Let me start. So there was always, and I just attribute it to just normal turbulence when it comes to dealing with people. But I think it became very apparent when I often say that people love you as long as you're not making decisions. And, along the way, making, key decisions, there were people that we had to let go. There were processes we had to start. And what I found is that there were many who would co-sign on decisions in front of your face, as you mentioned, but have a lot of phone conversations, to to work against what was discussed or established. So anyways, make a long story short. So I would say that I knew things were when my family started to get attacked, my character started to get attacked, when there were, when just evil just began to, just lies and just people aggressive for power. It just became very clear. And I think for my kids, there were two things. My son was telling me, he said, Dad, I got some text messages from my friends who were telling me, hey, Dad, hey, Emory, we're with you all and your family. And regardless of what happens, and I had shielded my kids from kind of the behind the scenes and the crazy stuff that's going on.
Right.
And he said, but Dad, what are they talking about? And so I remember having to bring him up to speed. Similarly, my daughter has an experience when her classmates says she's crying. The classmate is, and the teacher said, what's wrong? She's like, well, I'm not so sure if Jaden and our family is going to still be here. And so my daughter's looking like, what are you talking about? We're going to be here. What are you talking about? And so my daughter tells me the story. She's like, Dad, I don't even know what she was talking about. And I began to explain to her, what was going on. So I shielded my kids from that. But I realized that I always wanted my kids to have a romanticized picture of what church was. I didn't want them to just, see all the ugly and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I made a decision to say, you know what? I'm going to protect my kids from the foolishness behind the scenes. And so that's when I knew that when my children, now listen, you fight me all you want. You know what I mean? I'm built for that. But when my kids are impacted, that's when it's time to go. We're going to move on.
Was it ugly?
Yeah, it got ugly towards the end. Legal battles, attorneys involved. I would say people made sure that they brought their protection with them. So it got very tense.
Why? Why?
So I think it became a power struggle. I think that, and unfortunately it happens in so many churches where people don't, and I think as you mentioned kind of the feminine side and masculine side, what I found interesting is that I had a group of men who, not all of them, but instead of celebrating someone who's focused, trying to do the right thing, they could not rally behind someone who perhaps, and believe it or not, it was women who helped me to interpret this better than I could on my own. They said, Pastor, you got to remember, you're the guy they'll never be. You're the guy that their kids that didn't grow up to be. And so there's a level of resentment, so to answer your question, I recognized, and it was frustrating for me because I'm saying, if this is the best that we have to offer in terms of, these are supposed to be the best of best, no wonder our community's in bad shape because, things around pride and ego and things of that sort, so when it became to, who was going to be the leader, who's going to be the pastor, I said, listen, I'm not going to fight those battles.
Somebody is going through something right now.
Sure.
Somebody that finds themselves in a similar situation.
Right.
And it can be in principle.
Yes.
So that there's some dynamic of power or whatever. What three things, as we wrap up, what three things would you warn them or tell them to do? Sure.
So one was a lesson passed on to me by one of our members who was a superintendent in the school system. She says, Pastor, have you ever heard of the law of the leak? I said, no, what's the law of the leak? She says, you got to learn to not hold it, but you got to let some stuff leak out. So I would say to somebody who's going through a major challenge, struggle, professionally, listen, let it be known. Let people know about the struggle that you're dealing with behind the scenes and with whom you're dealing with. And so I'll call myself trying to protect the integrity or the organization, not, kind of keep everything in a box. So that's number one. I would tell people, listen, don't hold it in, let it out. Let people know what's going on so they have the real deal, the truth of the story. The second thing I would say is know that you're good enough. When you're going through, a major storm, the devil will work on you to make you feel like you're not good enough. Obviously, your opposition will find a lot of things to try to critique about you. But I say rest in the fact that, listen, I'm good enough. And then thirdly, what I would say this is that you're not getting any younger. You're only getting older. And so use your time wisely. So if it means moving on, listen, get your stuff, pack your bags, and move on. There's no need of fighting battles and wasting time with people who don't want to see you move forward. So those are the three things that I would say. Let others know what you're dealing with behind the scenes. Know that you're good enough. And thirdly, don't be afraid to move on.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
Yeah, today was good. I don't think I've ever had my light switch come on.
Okay.
like that. Pretty dope.
Sure.
You mentioned about your books.
Yes.
Tell me 7 books.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the most recent one?
So the most recent one is actually a book that my son and I co-wrote called Through My Father's Eyes, From My Father's Eyes. And that book, he was getting ready to go to college, like many parents kind of I feel like I prepared him, having some separation anxiety, like, hey, have I given him everything he needs, to help sustain him in life? He was blessed to get a full basketball scholarship and go on to go to college. And I remember just to make sure that I had given him what he needed, I said, hey, what are 10 lessons that you feel like I've taught and shared with you that you have found valuable and helpful? So we were just kind of having a conversation. We started jotting them down. I said, listen, why don't we, write a book together? And so he wrote the first 5 chapters. I wrote the second half. And, but yeah, that was our most recent book. And so, but I would say this for those who have daughters, it's a book for any coming of age young adult, filled with wisdom around money, relationships, character, you name it.
Principle driven.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. And how can people actually get a copy or go and purchase that or any of your other writings?
Sure. So they can go to my website, www.emoryberryjr.com, or go to Amazon and just type in my name and all 7 of the books available there.
Favorite church.
Yes, sir.
Is the favor of the Lord on it?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And that's been a big part of my thought process in my life. When I pastored in Virginia, the name of the church was Fourth Baptist Church. Our kind of slogan, hashtag, was favor at 4. When I was at Green Forest, same thing, favor at the Forest. And all of that was preparation for the Favor Church.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, they should be honored.
Yes.
That they have a pastor like you, Amen. With a heart like you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
With a spiritual acumen, and a mental ability to express God's word. Thank you for being on, sir.
Listen, glad to be on.
Yeah. All right. God bless you.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.